Bubba's waiting for him. Uh-oh, how are we going to get these untangled? I don't know. Let's just start handing them out, I guess.
Anybody need a Sharpie?
I don't have a piece of paper on mine to write. Can I? Oh, okay.
Yellow balloons.
As evil as Mr. Acosta is, his crimes are not why Rob and I talked about this and said we need to do a press conference. What we wanted to tell this county was how extraordinary the response of law enforcement and the community was to an absolute perpetrator, an absolute predator who changed the lives of so many women and men inside and outside this county. And had it not been for Mr. Acosta coming here, he would still tonight be preying on somebody and torturing them. He is that rarest of all evil creatures, a sexual sadist who actually derives pleasure from the pain he inflicts. And there is no question in my mind that, but for this office deciding that we had to go forward, even though it was an extremely difficult case, he would be making more misery as we speak.
Well, everything that Alice said, plus I think part of the reason why Alice and I wanted to hold this news conference was because of all the things that are happening right now in America and around the world in relation to violence against women and sex crimes. I'm thinking of Steubenville. I'm thinking of India. I'm thinking of Congress's inexplicable failure to reenact the Violence Against Women Act. These are things that have been in the news and have been highly talked about, and I wanted to add our piece because, as Alice mentioned, here in Lincoln County, we have no tolerance for violence against women. We have no tolerance for sex crimes, and we will prosecute those cases, even the hardest of cases, because it's vital. It's important that we do that for the community, and it's important that we let the Lincoln County community know that sexual predators and those who commit violence against women, or frankly anyone, are not only not welcome in Lincoln County, we'll prosecute you and we'll hold you accountable. And this case is probably the best evidence of that. And so I think it's really important for us to share this message with everybody. Were it not for this prosecution, as Alice said, we would have a very dangerous predator on the streets preying on someone else. Maybe it wouldn't be in Lincoln County because he's been transitory. He's committed these types of terrible offenses in numerous states over the course of his lifetime. But it was vital for us to hold this offender accountable and give some semblance of justice for April and her family. It was critical that we do that. Now, I know we've been criticized in certain circles for pursuing this very difficult and challenging case, but when it comes to sex crimes prosecutions, as Alice mentioned, we can't turn the other cheek. We have to pursue these. And I think we've set the tone here in this office over the past 4 years for how we're going to aggressively do that. We've established programs such as the Domestic Violence Court to quickly hold offenders accountable and to make sure that we break the cycle of violence in those cases where we can do that. And this is just another example of our very aggressive stance against this type of essentially predatory offense. So I'm incredibly pleased, I'm proud of Alice and Marcia for prosecuting this case, for taking this difficult and challenging case forward to a jury. Yes, we lost a lot of the counts because, frankly, we needed April to be able to testify about those, but there were still 6 that we could pursue, and the jury convicted on 4, as they should have. So it's really important that we recognize Alice and Marcia, but also our law enforcement community, our entire major crime team, and especially Detective Brent Gaynor with the Newport Police Department for not letting go and recognizing what we had here in Mr. Acosta and how vital it was for public safety that we hold him accountable. And that's precisely what we've done today.
Rob, how does it feel to successfully pursue a case and prosecute a case when the constitutional right to confront one's accuser wasn't possible? How did you pull that off? I mean, the public, I think, has a feel for it.
Yeah.
But could you put some meat on those bones?
Well, let me give you a different perspective. It's actually not uncommon for us to prosecute cases where the perpetrator is not able to confront his victim. Every murder case is an example of that. So I think as a practical matter, yes, we had 18 counts to start with, and I think it was 18 counts, and I think we lost 12 of them, because 12 of them essentially required that we have April available to be confronted. But when we have secondary or third part evidence, witness observations, for example, you can see someone being assaulted in the parking lot, and even if that person is unavailable or unwilling to testify, the witnesses that observe that assault can testify. This is evidence of that crime. And so there's, in sex crimes, sometimes we have that evidence and sometimes we don't. As you know, Dave, I'm no expert in sex crime prosecution. I've spent my career doing controlled substance and drug issues. And so if you want specific responses, we have some of those in the news release, and then I would just defer to Alice, who is in fact a career sex crime prosecutor and a nationally recognized prosecutor on those issues.
But you mentioned twice difficult and challenging case.
Yes.
Can you specifically tell me what was the challenge besides not having the victim available?
Well, that's the biggest challenge to this case was our primary witness against the defendant. The victim of the crime died in an unrelated traffic crash. Though that is not a typical circumstance. It's a tragic circumstance, of course, and it posed challenges because in these cases your primary witness is the victim. Now obviously you have a whole bunch of other witnesses, detectives, people that spoke with the perpetrator, people that spoke with the victim. You can have medical evidence, a variety of other things, but as a core of usual sex crimes prosecutions, it's the victim's testimony. So that presented challenges, and in fact we lost and had to lose, and frankly were required to lose a great portion of our case as a result.
I have done sex crimes prosecution for many years, both in New York and now here, and I've consulted to people all over the country and the world on sex crimes prosecution. The battle that I fought the most is prosecutors unwilling to fight it out in court. When we reached a point in this case where Judge Littlehales had suppressed all of the hearsay evidence and we knew we wouldn't be able to put in the other crimes evidence, Rob and I had a conversation and I said, we can't give up. We have to go forward. And Rob said, unlike so many prosecutors, Rob said, of course we have to go forward. Giving up would be just wrong. And we have a little bit of that in the press statement, but it was a remarkable moment. It was a defining moment for this office. We don't give up just because it's difficult.
So you said it was a unique case then, and so what was the unique, and does this set a precedent for other cases across the country?
I believe it sets a precedent for prosecutors across the country, that they don't just have an excuse and give up. We had an extraordinary family. One of the family members is in this room right now. We had an extraordinary family who rallied an entire community. We put together proof, the same kind of proof that we would put together if it was a pre-verbal child who'd been abused, where we got to show the April before any of this happened. And then just like we showed the physical injuries, we showed the injuries to her soul. Danielle's testimony made the entire courtroom cry, as did her mother's, as did the friends. So we were able to get past not being able to tell a narrative like you normally would have. It was a tough case. It was always a tough case. But as much as we're thrilled with the conviction, because Mr. Acosta is such a dangerous guy, I'm even more proud that we went forward. That was the biggest step we could possibly take. You don't give up. It would be wrong. We're used to learning everything through words, but people observe things with more than words. People, they see, they feel, they observe visually, and because we had such powerful witnesses who the jury could it was a great jury, and they could not ignore them, we were able to tell the story without words.
And what form did that take? I mean, when you tell the story without words,
Okay.
What did that look like?
Okay. We had several witnesses say, you know, when they're asked what April is like right after the crime, they said the light went out of her eyes. That's not, April told me this happened to me. That's, you know, immediate, jury can grasp what the effects of the sexual assault were.
And I basically concluded that we had to move forward, and she characterizes that a certain way, and I don't disagree with her characterization. However, for me, it wasn't a choice. To me, it was about Alice and I and everyone being able to sleep at night. If we didn't prosecute him, even though there was a substantial likelihood we might lose everything, even if we didn't prosecute him, how could we sleep at night? Knowing we had walked away from a predator who is incredibly dangerous and would victimize again and again based on his history. So, you know, he's been now sentenced to 100 months in prison under Measure 11. We know for the next 99 months that he's not going to predate or be a predator in some other state, in some other county, against some other victim for at least that time period. And that's important for, if no one else, the legacy of April. And we owed her that at a minimum.